Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and here's another Star Wars Destiny video. And with Empire at War nearly upon us, what, about 2 weeks now, I thought I'd put out, I think it's about 10 or 12 cards that I'm really excited about. These aren't necessarily going to be the best 10 or 12 cards, but if you know anything about me, I play competitive Destiny, so these are not going to be clunkers for sure. Let's look at the card that's probably the most exciting, and that's Thrawn. Thrawn is this really weird, cool card that says, after you activate this character, you may choose a number, then look at an opponent's hand and discard a card from it that costs the chosen number. So essentially, it is a way to, every single time you activate him, you have to go into your opponent's hand and probably pick out the best card for their deck, right? Like if you know the metagame well and you know, okay, this archetype wants to start with this card, they don't get to. Really as simple as that. That is an incredibly strong tool to be able to use. Now you couple that with cards like Feint, and you get to start your turn by basically taking out 2 of their cards in your first 2 actions. Let's say you're first, you do this, they take an action by playing a card, you feint, or I guess you'd have to feint to do this, and then you do it again as your third action after they've played a card. You have taken 3 cards out of their hand. They played 1, but they have 2 left, 2 actions in. That is pretty absurd. It leaves them, first of all, not a lot of reroll. Second of all, you know what's in their hand. Third of all, your turn is barely started and theirs is almost done. You're in really good shape. I just feel like Thrawn is going to reward those who really know what they're doing. The real question for me is how? How does he win? What is the archetype he is a part of? Is he the anchor of a mill deck? I think Thrawn, Funkar, and a card you're going to see on this list soon, Buyout, can be a really, really formidable mill deck. It's possible that he is in some way the foundation of a support deck. If you play him as elite with 2 dice, you're looking at 2 dice that have 2 resource sides on them. That's pretty strong. He's got a 2 focus side on him. Like, he's got some cool sides on him. I'm really excited to see him. He just doesn't have damage, right? And so he's this really cool character. Like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to outthink you. And I love that card. I'm not sure, like I said, where it's going to fit, how it's going to be. I think for sure there's going to be a good mill deck. Let's talk about that next then. Buyout. Oh my goodness. This card? I'm not sure this card was tested. I'm just going to say that. This card feels like a card where the designers were like, oh, playtesting's over. Let's just throw this in there because it's that absurd. I don't understand how a card like this makes it through. Let's look at why it's absurd. 0 cost event. Okay. Spend any number of resources, then discard cards from the top of an opponent's deck equal to the number of resources you just spent. Now, normally that's fine. You get 2 a turn. You spend 2 for Buyout, you knock 2 cards off the top of their deck. Whatever, that's fine. The problem is, when you start doing things like Funkar plus Thrawn, it feels like you're going to be able to pile up some resources pretty well while using things like Funkar and Thrawn to take away their threats while you're piling up your resources. Suddenly, I mean, it really seems possible that if all you're doing is taking cards out of their hand with Thrawn and Unkar, and every now and then using 1 for a removal, within a very short amount of time, you should be able to do a Buyout that's massive, like 8, 7, 10 point Buyout, which is absurd. Like, if you could just round 2 knock off 8 cards out of their deck, that just seems crazy to me. This card very much feels like a cap card, like limit 5. 5 would be amazing, right? I don't know. There's a couple of cards like this every now and then that slip through the cracks where you're like, it's like FN. FN's cool in theory if it was limit 1. And Buyout would be amazing at limit 3, limit 5, whatever they decided the cap was. To make it uncapped, it just feels like there's some serious room for exploitation there. And that's fine. I'm actually excited to see a mill deck be good. I'm terrified to see a mill deck be the best. That's what terrifies me. So Buyout is really intriguing. I've been looking for mill to be good all along. It's always that close, right? You're never quite there with it. However, there's a card that does seem to be not designed to beat this card, but along with other cards to be able to handle this a little bit, and that is Coercion, which may be the best card in the set. It is a 1-cost removal card. It's an event, spot a yellow character to reveal an opponent's hand and choose an event in it. They must play that event as their next action if able. Wow. The first time you see this, you might be like, so? I mean, I forced them to use their Electroshock. Okay, cool. Like, they were going to use their Electroshock anyway. What's the difference? But it's so deep. This card is so deep. So many cards you get to play. Buyout. Buyout costs 0. They don't have to spend anything. Your opponent spends all their money for the turn. Let's say you're Thrawn. You know they have buyout. You know for a fact they do. They have no money. I'll pay 1 Coercion. Choose buyout, please. Alright, I will pay 0 and remove 0 cards from the top of your deck. Womp womp. Coercion, the really crazy things are stuff like, oh, yeah, how about, why don't you, price a failure there? You got your Vader Phasma deck. I killed Phasma. And, just price a failure your Vader if you don't mind. That's kind of disgusting. And there are about 8 billion other ways to really exploit this card. You know, the most basic, of course, is just simply, alright, there's not very good dice out, I'll make you use your Electroshock, right? Like, that's the most basic. It does so many things. So first of all, it can pull the best card out of their hand and just wreck them. It can make them waste their removal. It can also make them waste their money. Let's say they have a 2-cost event in hand and they were going to use that to pay for an upgrade, and you're able to make them spend that too. It's just such a flexible, amazing card. It gives you knowledge, it gives you power. It's just, this card is bananas good. I love it. It will be in all of my decks. Of course it's villain. Of course it's villain. All of the best cards seem to be villain yellow. So now you have, like, he doesn't like you. You've got this. It's just, villain yellow is going to be real good. Might as well look at the next villain yellow card that's amazing, which is Deadly, which I believe you will not be able to read the text. I can't read the text either. This is blown up from somebody's pack. It's something like action, remove a character die attached to this character to do 2 unblockable damage to a character. So it's essentially direct damage. You probably not Balatik because he's going to die. Let's say it's Balatik. You roll out your Balatik. Here's a better example, I think. Jabba. Jabba does damage now. You roll out your Jabba. Your Jabba dice are out there. One of them's good. One of them's not good. He has Deadly. As your next action, you simply trigger Deadly and take off one of those character dice and do 2 unblockable damage to a character. I think Deadly is incredibly strong. Really as simple as that. That is an incredibly strong tool. It's of course, exhaust is the first word, so you can't just keep doing it. But you could theoretically stick 2 on an elite character and just, over the course of 3 actions, you roll them in, and the next 2 actions are, you know, exhausting this and then exhausting it, the other one. Suddenly you've done 4 unblockable damage. That's really strong. I love this card. More and more I'm hoping to put together this deck that just doesn't care what I roll. Just, I roll out dice, cool, I fight dirty. I roll out dice, cool, I deadly. Alright, the guy's about to die, cool, I'll arm to the teeth. Just this deck that just does damage. And deadly fits so well into it. I'm very, very excited for this card. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work out, but I am really, really excited for it. Alright, the next exciting card is the 7th Sister. Let's fix that. We're going to fix it on the fly here, in fact. Alright, and these images, by the way, are coming from SW Destiny, so thank you very much to you guys over there. Or you guys being Mike. Being Mike, the Rebel Spy. Alright, 7th Sister. Pretty cheap. 1114 is not bad for what this card does, which is basically either a 2 dice or 3 dice card. I'm not sure about the Seeker Droids. The Seeker Droids sound cool. They cost 2. I thought they were supports originally. They're not. They're upgrades. And the fact that they're upgrades is kind of a problem. Problem is, as an upgrade, she dies and it goes away, and it costs 2, or whoever dies. And maybe that's what you can do. Maybe you can do something where they start attacking the seventh sister, and then you're able to put it on the guy who's going to be the last person left. I don't know. The Seeker Droid's not that great to die individually, so I'm not entirely sure how well that's going to work out. But just being able to get Elite 411, essentially, is pretty strong. Especially if you don't really need to do anything with the Seeker die. If you're doing some sort of, interesting direct damage deck where you have stuff like Fight Dirty and Deadly that, of course, only work on yellow, and these are blue. But if there is a way to really start, just being able to use the dice without having them have them on a side, this is going to be incredibly strong. And her die's not bad at 1-2 damage. She's kind of like FN, only a million times worse because FN is nuts. But she's pretty exciting. To be able to get a 3-dice character for 14 is really interesting, and I think it's exciting, and it opens up possibilities. Alright, let's look at Hera next. We've talked about Hera before, so we won't spend a ton of time on her, but she's really exciting. I can't wait to get her. I can't wait to try her out. That special is insane. Being able to just play vehicles from your hand for free? That's nuts. And because you have 3PO, this is a guaranteed hit. They have to remove Hera's die no matter what it rolls, or 3PO's, or you get to make it a special. And that's just really, really strong. You don't have to do cutesy things like data pads and hoping. You just play 3PO and draw him. So she's going to be really strong. I'm looking forward to seeing how this shakes out. The thing is, it's kind of slow, and we'll have to see if this slowness will work. I mean, things like buyout, like a fast mill deck will be really tough for poor Hera. You're losing all the cards in her hand. You can't do her tricks. Her deck's going away rapidly. It's going to be really, really interesting. Alright, next is going to be the Ancient Lightsaber. Ancient Lightsaber is really cool. Only 2 cost for a lightsaber. Doesn't have redeploy right there. So anytime any weapon doesn't have redeploy now, I'm like, doesn't have redeploy. I mean, we're pretty deep into the pool now. No redeploy. I don't know. But it's pretty cool. It's the 1/1 +3 means it's going to do damage for only 2. It's going to do some damage. It's got the resource. And the action might end up being incredibly useful. First of all, because of lightsaber pull, you're almost guaranteed to see this at least once per game, which means you're going to get a heal effect off. So any character you need has 2 extra health. So this basically means Vader, Big Daddy Vader, is 15 health Big Daddy Vader, which is really terrifying. And if you have 2, and you have 2 of the lightsaber pulls, it's almost guaranteed you're getting 2, which means Big Daddy Vader has 17 health. That's a lot of health for Big Daddy Vader. And now if you want to get crazy and you want to do this with Luke, and you want to maybe put in a couple Return of the Jedis, you could trigger this potentially 6 times, which would be a lot of health. But another really interesting aspect that I haven't seen people see is, with buyout being potentially amazing and mill decks maybe being really amazing, lightsaber might save you. Most mill decks, while they have a couple of cards to wreck your deck once or twice, it's generally coming off of the hand. And if that's the case, Ancient Lightsaber can make it so that you actually can never be milled, right? Because you can just go, as my first action, I'll put this on my guy. Next action, before you're able to do anything, or better yet, just play my whole turn. Play my whole turn. Yep, you did. You did. Congratulations. You took all the cards out of my hand. Yep, that's true. Before the end of the turn, I'm going to go ahead and trigger this. I'll heal 2 damage, and then, and it's not a then, so it's not a if you heal the 2. I'll heal the 2 or heal 0. And then I'm just going to put this on the bottom of the deck, and let's go to the next turn. This card may single-handedly thwart mill decks, or at least make it a whole lot harder for mill decks to be successful. And I think we're going to see that that's going to be one of the primary uses for this card, is that against mill, it's going to be a real pain in the neck. And I look forward to that, because if Mill is as good as I'm worried that it's going to be, and as fast as it might be, having something like Ancient Lightsaber there to save you just one more turn may be absolutely necessary and crucial, and save you and save the game, to be honest, because you don't want Mill to be so good that it basically wins every time. Another card I'm really excited about is Funeral Pyre. I haven't really heard anyone talk about how excited they are about it. But before one of your blue characters is defeated, you may move an upgrade from it to another one of your characters. I mean, this seems really strong to me, even in a mixed deck. What I really think this does is it saves cards like Padawan from relative obscurity. Yeah, they still have low health, but all of these blue weapons, something like an Ancient Lightsaber, only costs 1, and if you have the Funeral Pyre out, it costs 1 and dies, whoop, just moves over. I don't know, it really allows you to play stuff like Handcrafted Lightbow. You put that on a Padawan for only 2, and then it moves to the other Padawan, or it moves to Rey or something if you're going Rey double Padawan. I don't know, I feel like Funeral Pyre could be really important and let you be able to play those cards that before now had been kind of unplayable. Like, you kind of can't play Handcrafted Lightbow because it's just too expensive, and whoever it goes on becomes the primary target. But if you get to move it all around, I just think this is going to be really strong with some 3-character deck with mostly blue guys. Because it doesn't even have to be all blue guys. It can be 2 blue guys that you're putting weapons on first that they're going to have to go for. And as they start going for them and have committed, then you get the Funeral Pyre down, and then you start moving the weapons around. I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to be amazing, but boy, it looks good. It looks really promising to me, especially for what's been sort of the languishing archetype, right? Which is those mono blue hero decks just haven't been able to really compete. I feel like this is the card that they're missing. I'm not sure that this is the card that pushes them to tier 1, but I think mono blue players or 3-character decks with 2 blues are going to be pretty excited to get Funeral Pyre. I know I am. It's one of those cards that I'm just pretty darn excited about. Let's take a look at another card I'm excited about. Trickery. This card looks sick. So, 1 cost, discard your hand. Okay, yeah, that's kind of rough. That's kind of rough, I'll admit that. I will admit that. But for each card you just discarded, you may remove a die showing a value that is equal to that card's cost. This is a serious turn ender, basically. And I'm kind of wondering if there's a deck that has something like Retreat and Trickery, so that it's like you're all in on one of your characters and their dice, whatever character that is that has big dice. You roll that character in, you quickly resolve their big dice, and then you jump out with Retreat. Well, on the turns where you don't have Retreat and you can't jump out, you can kind of feel out the turn a little bit and then Trickery with the hand that you have left. You'll probably have 3 to 4 cards left. If you can remove 3 of their dice and just leave them with their 1 die that's not doing that much, it's almost the same as ending the turn. I feel like this card is going to be really, really strong. I'm quite excited for it, actually. The discard your hand is a little tough because you can't do a thing where it's like, I've got 3 cards I'm comfortable discarding, but this one I really need. No, you got to get rid of that one too. So that's where it's going to be a little tricky. But I think this is going to find a spot in some really, like, I think it's going to be overlooked at first, and then a really good player is going to come up with a great deck for it, and people are going to go, oh, wow, that is a good card. So expect regionals, someone to break this out and wreck face with it. I think it's going to be really strong. Another really cool card is Partnership. This is the card that makes Hera vehicle decks viable. It's not Hera. Hera's great and all, but just getting vehicles and then getting their dice removed is kind of ugh, and it's slow. But Partnership gives you this chance twice per game to just go, I'll activate this dude, this vehicle. Oh, I rolled good? Sure, I'll use a resource and resolve both of their guns together and do 5 or 6 damage. That just feels really strong. I'm really excited for this card. I feel like this is the anchor this and Reckless Reentry are like the anchor cards for Hera. It almost doesn't matter what vehicles you have now because you have stuff. Like before it was, well, the vehicles aren't good enough. And now it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what the vehicles are if you have stuff like Partnership and Reckless Reentry. Now, just as long as the vehicles are fine and Hera, that we could put this together. So it really does feel like FFG is being serious with their claim that they want support decks to be real. It feels realer and realer every time we look at a new card. So that's pretty exciting. Let's see. I think there's 2 cards left that I have on my initial list here that I want to take a look at. One of them is Hate. Oh, Anakin is so angry. I guess he's not Anakin anymore right now. He's Darth Vader. This card's really good. I've talked about this already. Redeploy. After you activate attached character, you may deal it a damage to deal damage to another character. So just imagine something like this in Deadly. Having these in the same deck. Let's say you have 2 Hates, 2 Deadlies, 2 backup muscles. That's a lot of resources. I grant you that. But let's just say you have that. Every turn, theoretically, that's 1, 2 from the Hates, 4 more from the Deadlies is 6, 2 more from the backup muscles is 8. That is nearly a character a turn without dice. Just with, like, direct damage. I don't know, Hate's real good. The fact that it's redeploy seems very interesting to me, and it really upgrades its power level in my eyes, because yes, you are hurting the character that this is attached to, thus hastening his death, but you're hastening his death and then it just goes over to the next guy. And the really cool thing is if you can kill him this turn, then you can move it over and do it to another guy this turn, the same turn with just a different activation. So I'm really excited about Hate and Deadly, especially together. I don't know that it's going to be tier 1. I don't know if it's there yet, but boy, I'm excited to try it. Good. Alright, well, these are some cards I'm excited about. What are the cards you are excited about from Empire at War? Let me know, and I'll see you next time on Untitled Games.